Most people call Evangelions giant robots. They are wrong. An Eva is a living weapon trapped in armor, powered by souls, trauma, and secrets. Nerve was never meant to control. Some were built to protect humanity, some were built to end it, and some barely survived long enough to prove nobody truly understood what they created. So today we're breaking down every Evangelion unit, from Unit 00 to the mass production EVAs. Because the scariest thing about an EVA isn't what it can destroy, it's what's trapped inside. Unit 00 Unit 00 is the prototype, literally. It's the first functional Evangelion ever created, the baseline for every unit that followed, piloted by Rei Ayanami, the first child. Nervi built this thing before they fully understood what they were building, and honestly, it shows. Here's the thing, every Evangelion requires a human soul to function. Units 01 and 02 contain the souls of their pilot's mothers, but Rei doesn't have a mother. She was created from the angel Lilith and the remains of Yui Ikari, so there's no obvious candidate for Unit 00's soul. The leading theories are either a fragment of Lilith's soul or the consciousness of the very first Rei clone, the one Naoko Akagi strangled to death. Neither has ever been canonically confirmed. On the technical side, Rei's emotional detachment created wildly inconsistent synchronization rates. One day the unit performs fine, the next it's borderline inoperable. Nervi's most foundational weapon was also its most unreliable, which is, you know, not ideal when the fate of humanity is on the line, but at least Unit 00 stayed under human control. Unit 01 didn't always have that luxury. Unit 01 Unit 01 is not a production model. It's classified as the test type, and it was built from Lilith, not Adam like every other Eva. That distinction matters more than you think, because it means Unit 01 is fundamentally a different kind of creature than anything else in Nerve's arsenal. And the reason it exists at all is one of the most horrifying origin stories in anime. During a contact experiment, Shinji's mother, Yui Ikari, was absorbed directly into Unit 01. Her body was gone, but her soul wasn't. It fused with the Eva's core, and from that moment on, Unit 01 wasn't just a weapon, it was a mother. Here's where it gets dark. Berserk mode isn't a malfunction. When Shinji's life is in danger, Yui's consciousness takes over completely. The eyes shift from green to crimson red, pilot commands stop mattering, and Unit 01 enters a violent, uncontrollable rampage with one single objective: keep her son alive. That's not a glitch. That's maternal instinct expressed through an apocalyptic body. And it gets worse. Unit 01 is the only Eva that ever consumed an angel's core and absorbed its S2 engine, the fruit of life. That gave it unlimited operational energy. No battery, no umbilical cable, just raw, infinite power with zero external dependency. But the real insanity happens in End of Evangelion. Unit 01 merged with the Tree of Sephiroth, transformed into a giant of light, and became an entity capable of literally reshaping reality. The most powerful weapon humanity ever built, and it runs on a dead mother's love for her son. I don't know what to tell you, but if Unit 01 is the emotional core of the franchise, Unit 02 is the fighter that never got a fair shot. Unit 02 Unit 02 was the first Evangelion built to actually win fights, where Unit 00 was a prototype held together with duct tape and prayers, and Unit 01 was a metaphysical science experiment wearing armor. Unit 02 was designed from the ground up as a weapon, a production model, standardized, refined, combat ready. On paper, it was the best Eva ever made, and none of that mattered. Here's the thing about Unit 02. It houses the soul of Asuka's mother, Kyoko Soryu, same concept as Unit 01 housing Yui Ikari, but where Shinji's Eva protects him through a mother's unconditional love, Asuka's Eva reflects a mother she could never emotionally reach in life. The connection isn't protective, it's broken. A child screaming into a void that technically contains her mother but offers zero comfort back. The hardware itself was genuinely impressive. Unit 02 carried the PK2 progressive knife, basically a giant utility box cutter with snap-off blades you could replace mid-combat. It also packed the needle launcher, a rack of 7 spikes mounted in the right shoulder pylon that could be fired as piercing projectiles. Oh, which is, you know, extremely cool and extremely violent, but its final deployment tells you everything. In End of Evangelion, Asuka was sent to the bottom of the Geofront Lake for a last stand against overwhelming forces. The result was Unit 02's complete destruction and Asuka's total psychological annihilation, the best built Eva in the series, torn apart. In the rebuild continuity, its destroyed components were eventually grafted onto Unit 08's frame. Even in death, Unit 02 couldn't rest, but at least Unit 02 chose its own battles. The next EVA on our list didn't get that luxury. Unit 03 is, on paper, basically the same as Unit 02. Same production model philosophy, same standardized combat design, same general idea. Build it, armor it, hand it to a teenager, point it at an angel. But Unit 03 never got to be a normal EVA because something found it first. Bardiel, the 13th angel, is not a creature that attacks an Evangelion. It becomes one. Think Cordyceps, the parasitic fungus that hijacks insects and puppeteers their bodies from the inside. Now scale that up to a god. Bardiel infiltrated Unit 03 like a disease, threading itself through the EVA's biomass until the two were indistinguishable. Once the infection took hold, the pilot lost all voluntary control. Zero input, zero override. The unit started leaking infectious ooze, its arms stretching to physically impossible lengths, bending and warping like something out of a nightmare. What used to be a standardized military platform was now a bioweapon wearing an EVA's skin. Here's where it gets truly horrible. The pilot inside was Tuji Suzuhara, one of Shinji's closest friends, and during the infection, Tuji's body was partially absorbed into Unit 03's biomass. Not killed, necessarily. Absorbed. Nobody at NERV could confirm whether Tuji was still alive in there, or whether Bardiel had already digested him into raw material. They had to destroy Unit 03 anyway, knowing a 14-year-old boy might still be conscious somewhere inside that thing. In the rebuild continuity, it's Asuka sitting in that entry plug instead of Tuji. Different pilot, same nightmare. The horror isn't who's inside, it's that someone is inside and nobody can save them. But at least Unit 03 existed long enough to get infected. The next EVA on our list didn't even get that far. Unit 04. Here's a fun question. What happens when you try to give an Evangelion unlimited power without fully understanding the science behind it? The answer is you punch a hole in space-time and erase an entire facility from existence. Which is, you know, not ideal. Unit 04 was never built for combat. It was a test bed constructed at NERV's second branch in the United States, designed for S2 engine integration research. They wanted to install a super solenoid engine, basically the fruit of life, into an EVA and give it unlimited operational energy with zero reliance on external power cables. The engine was possibly salvaged from the Angel Shamshell, which already sounds like a terrible idea before you even get to the results. And the results were spectacular in the worst possible way. During testing, a catastrophic malfunction didn't just destroy Unit 04, it consumed the unit, the entire facility, and everything within a 49-kilometer radius into a Dirac Sea. That's a localized breakdown of spatial reality, not an explosion. Reality itself just stopped working in that area. Nobody ever saw Unit 04 fight. Its entire legacy is a cautionary tale about reaching for god-level power without understanding the metaphysics behind it. But here's where it gets genuinely strange. The event was classified, the data was lost, and NERV headquarters moved on like an entire American research branch didn't just get swallowed by a hole in reality. No recovery mission, no investigation, just silence. The official response was basically anyway, moving on. That's either the most suspicious cover-up in NERV's history or the most on-brand one. But if Unit 04 vanished into a dimension that shouldn't exist, wait until you see the EVA that barely existed in the first place. Provisional Unit 05. Every Evangelion unit up to this point has at least tried to look like a person. Provisional Unit 05 didn't even bother. Stationed at Bethany Base somewhere in the frozen sprawl between Europe and Russia, this thing had one job: stand guard over the sealed third angel and make sure it never woke up. No grand mission, just a half-finished sentinel watching a door that must never open. And half-finished isn't an exaggeration. The upper body looked like a standard EVA V-shaped torso armor, the usual profile, but from the waist down. Pure machine. Artificial mechanical limbs, cogwheel mechanisms, thruster systems. Zero biological components. It's what an Evangelion looks like before it's done becoming an Evangelion. Half nightmare, half industrial crane. The provisional designation tells you everything. They needed something standing guard immediately, so they bolted mechanical legs onto an unfinished biological torso and called it a day. Which is, you know, not ideal. Its loadout reflected that purpose perfectly. One weapon, the anti-angel extermination weapon spear of Longinus basic type. A stripped down copy of the legendary spear. Not the real thing, just enough to get the job done if containment failed. Its pilot was Mari Makinami Illustrious, a character who exists exclusively in the rebuild continuity with zero counterpart in the original series. Unit 05 did its job when the third angel finally broke containment. Mari fought the thing through the collapse collapsing corridors of Bethany Base, impaled it with the knockoff spear, and triggered the self-destruct sequence. A provisional machine with a one-way mission. It did exactly what it was built to do, then stopped existing. But if Unit 05 was an unfinished thing guarding a sealed door, the next unit was built on the moon itself, and it carried something far more dangerous than a knockoff spear. Mark 06. Up until now, every unit we've covered has been a numbered Evangelion. Unit 00, Unit 01, Unit 02, and so on. Mark 06 is not a numbered unit, it's a Mark series unit, and that distinction matters way more than it sounds like it should, because the Mark designation doesn't just mean higher number, it means a completely different category of machine. This is the moment Evangelion technology stopped being military hardware and started becoming something theological. Mark 06 was constructed on the moon, specifically at Tabga Base, Nervi's 7th branch facility in the Mare Tranquillitatis region. You first catch a glimpse of it at the end of Evangelion 1.0, still under construction, wrapped in rubbery white material, like something that wasn't ready to be seen yet, and the person overseeing its completion, Kaworu Nagisa, a being whose true nature goes well beyond human pilot. Kaworu is intimately connected to Adam and the entire theological backbone of the Evangelion mythology, so basically an angel in human skin was building a god machine on the moon, which is, you know, not ideal. The capabilities reflect the pedigree. Mark 06 could genuinely fly. Not assisted jumps, not brief thruster bursts. Actual powered flight with orbital re-entry competency. No standard Evangelion comes anywhere close to that. It also carried the Spear of Cassius, a weapon fundamentally distinct from the Spear of Longinus copies handed out to other units. Different name, different function, different tier entirely. Mark 06 descended from lunar orbit during the climax of Evangelion 2.0, like something out of a religious painting. It was ultimately destroyed when Gendo wielded the Spear of Gaius to end all of it. Every last unit gone. But if the Mark series represents a generational leap beyond standard Evas, the units built alongside them push the concept of what an Evangelion even is in a completely different direction. Unit 08, most Evangelion units were built. Unit 08 was stitched together like a corpse on a slab. Here's the thing, by the time Willie needed another combat-ready Eva, they didn't have a factory floor. They had wreckage, specifically the destroyed remains of Unit 02 Beta and the incomplete frame of Unit 08 Beta. Someone looked at those two piles of parts and said, yeah, we can make this work. So they grafted one unit's destroyed components onto the skeleton of another, creating a Frankenstein composite containing pieces of two separate Evangelions, which is, you know, not ideal when these things have souls. Mari Makinami Illustrious drew pilot duty, the same operator who previously commanded Provisional Unit 05 at Bethany Base. She went from babysitting a containment sentinel to piloting a cyborg hybrid built from salvage. That's a promotion, technically. Visually, Unit 08 looks alien even by EVA standards. The helmet sports 3 backward-aimed horns. It has 8 neon-colored eyes. 8. The color scheme is pink with white and yellow accents, giving it this weirdly cheerful appearance for something assembled from a dead unit's organs. It deployed in Evangelion 3.0 alongside Unit 02 Beta against the Mark 04 during Operation US, and nobody in the audience was ever told what Operation US actually was. You're watching a military engagement with zero briefing, which creates this unsettling feeling that even you aren't cleared for the full picture. As for combat capabilities, they remained largely undefined. Willa built a war machine out of spare parts and then never bothered explaining what it could actually do. But if Unit 08 feels like a mystery wrapped in salvage, wait until you meet the Eva that mirrors Unit 00 and carries implications far worse than anything a hybrid could manage. Arc 09. Here's where the Mark series stops looking forward and starts looking backward, which is exactly when you should be concerned. Mark 09 shares explicit design similarities with Unit 00, the very first prototype Evangelion ever built. The most advanced production line in existence deliberately mirrors the earliest, most flawed unit in the entire program. That's not nostalgia, that's a pattern, and patterns in Evangelion never mean anything good. The pilot situation makes it worse. Mark 09 is piloted by Rei Ayanami, but not any Rei you'd recognize. This one is designated tentative name, not a code name, not a placeholder. Her actual classification is that she doesn't have a confirmed identity. She's either a freshly grown clone or some kind of consciousness echo from a previous Rei iteration, and nobody, including her, seems entirely sure which. A pilot without a confirmed identity operating a unit without a confirmed origin. origin. Cool, that's fine. Nerve dispatches Mark 09 on a direct assault mission against Willie's AA Wonder to recover Shinji, which tells you everything about its combat capability and its role as an active instrument of Gendo's increasingly unhinged metaphysical ambitions. This isn't a defensive unit, this is a weapon pointed at anyone standing between Gendo and his endgame. And then there's the Scythe. Mark 09 carries a distinctive scythe form melee weapon, which, if you're keeping track of your mythological symbolism, is the universal calling card of death and cyclical reaping. A reaper's weapon on a unit designed to echo the prototype, piloted by a girl who may have died and been rebuilt multiple times. Subtle Mark 09 met the same fate as every remaining Eva when Shinji wielded the Spear of Gaius, erased alongside everything it represented. But if a single unit unsettles you, wait until you hear about the ones that barely exist at all. Units 10, 11, and 12. Here's something you almost never encounter in Evangelion discourse. A complete absence of information. Not ambiguity, not conflicting theories, not cut content that data miners piece together. Just nothing. Units 10, 11, and 12 might be the only Evangelions that exist purely as numbers on a planning document, and in a franchise that obsessively catalogs every bolt, soul fragment, and psychological breakdown. That silence is deafening. Here's what we actually know. Seal's original production plans called for units extending all the way through Unit 16. That's at least 16 theoretical Evangelions across all developmental phases, but only 9 mass production Evangelions were ever completed from that planned batch of 12, which means Units 10, 11, and 12 were either never started, scrapped mid-construction, or destroyed before anyone bothered to write down what they could do. And that's it. That's literally everything. No pilot assignments, no documented capabilities, no facility records, no armor color, nothing. These 3 units occupy a weird transitional zone between the individually significant numbered Evas and the standardized mass production models, potentially representing some experimental middle step incorporating principles we'll never know about, or potentially representing absolutely nothing at all. The question isn't what these units could do in a fight. The question is whether they ever physically existed as anything more than a line item in Seal's budget. 7 global facilities built 9 units out of a planned 12. 3 just vanished from the production pipeline like someone forgot to hit save. I don't know what to tell you. Sometimes the void is the answer. But if ghost units with 0 documentation sound anticlimactic, the next one more than makes up for it. Unit 13. They named it after Judas. That should tell you everything. Unit 13 is the Rebuild franchise's ultimate betrayal machine, designed from the ground up to weaponize trust. Where every other Eva requires 1 pilot, Unit 13 introduced the double entry system, 2 separate entry plugs running simultaneously, requiring Shinji and Kaworu to synchronize their consciousness together in real time. 2 boys, 2 souls, 1 giant. You have to let someone completely into your mind, and that's exactly what makes it so devastating when everything goes wrong. Unit 13 is capable of entering a full awakened state, transforming into a radiant giant of light, achieving the kind of existential transcendence that puts it on the same level as theological entities. Arms spread wide, glowing like a god, with 2 teenagers fused into its nervous system. This is the visual climax of the entire franchise's escalation. Here's the thing, the number 13 isn't accidental. The tarot death card, Judas Iscariot, the 13th apostle, history's most famous betrayer. Kaworu would ultimately die in Thrice Upon a Time, his fate sealed by the very bond Unit 13 was built to exploit, making the designation less a number and more a prophecy. In Thrice Upon a Time, Gendo hijacked Unit 13 as the vehicle for his final desperate play, attempting to transcend consciousness entirely and reunite with Yui Ikari. His obsession consumed the machine that was supposed to represent connection between 2 people. It ended when Gendo drove the Spear of Gaius through both Unit Arrow 1 and Unit 13 simultaneously, destroying them and severing the link between human consciousness and Evangelion technology forever. The intimacy machine became the apocalypse machine, which is, you know, the entire thesis of Evangelion in one sentence. But if Unit 13 was built to end the world with 2 pilots, wait until you see what happens when you build 9 Evas with 0 pilots and hand them all copies of the Spear of Longinus, mass production models. Every unit we've covered so far has a name. a pilot, a mother's soul trapped inside, a tragic backstory you could write a novel about. The mass production Evangelions have none of that. They're white, they're identical, and there are 9 of them rolling off assembly lines in 7 different countries like somebody figured out how to manufacture the apocalypse, which is exactly what happened. Seal originally planned 12 units, numbered 05 through 16. They completed 9, built in secret at Nerve facilities scattered across the globe, including installations in Germany and China, hidden from international oversight, hidden from Nerve's own command structure. Each one painted the same flat white with black arm details. No signature colors, no custom armor, no personality, just industrial standardization applied to something that should never have been standardized. Their only weapon was a heavy spear, a giant club-looking thing called an ukin, except those clubs were fake. Every single one was a disguised replica of the Spear of Longinus. 9 fake spears that become 9 real lances. Seal didn't give these things progressive knives or rifles or shoulder-mounted needle launchers. They gave each one a copy of the most powerful weapon in the mythology and called it a day. Here's the thing that makes these units the most terrifying objects in the entire franchise. Seal figured out how to mass-produce gods. Every Evangelion we've discussed required a specific soul, a specific pilot, a specific set of impossible circumstances to function. The mass production models reproduce that transcendent consciousness binding mechanism at factory scale, 9 times over. No mothers required, and their purpose was singular. During End of Evangelion, all 9 units deployed simultaneously, captured Shinji and Unit 01, and established the framework for Third Impact. Every human consciousness on Earth was forcibly merged into Lilith's Black Moon. No individuality, no distinction, no suffering, no you. But then Shinji made a choice. Inside that collective, stripped of everything, he decided whether humanity deserved to exist as individuals. That decision, made possible entirely because these 9 white giants dragged him into the mechanism, fundamentally altered reality itself. Every thread in the entire series converges here. The souls, the mothers, the angels, the theology, all of it built toward 9 identical units carrying fake spears, asking one question that Evangelion never fully answers. Should humanity remain human? If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.